Hi everyone, and welcome back to another Spanish lesson. Do you know how to say this number in Spanish? Or what about this Wi-Fi password?
Okay, so we learn basic numbers pretty early on in our studies, but what happens is as we advance, we need to start using bigger numbers to talk about dates, prices, phone numbers or addresses, and other important information. That's why today we're talking about big numbers to improve your Spanish.
First, let's do a super quick review of numbers up to 1,000. So 1 to 10 in Spanish is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, 11 to 20 is 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Then we have 10 plus the single digit number like 16, 17, 18, and 19.
Now, when we talk about numbers in the tens place, we're going to have 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, y 90. Now, if we have something like 54, we're going to say our tenths place and then y and then our single digit. So, for example, 54 would be 50 y 4. 33 would be 30 y 3.
Now, for numbers in the hundreds, we have 100 if it's 100, and ciento if it's between 101 and 199.
So, we say the hundreds place, and then the tenths place and the single digit, just like we did before. So 101 would be 101. 154, 154. 133, 133. So to say all of our 100s, first you'll have 100 for 100, but then you'll just place the single digit before cientos. So 200, 200, 300, 300, 400, and so on. But for the hundreds, we have a slight change of form for three of these numbers.
500 is not 500, but 500. 700 is not 700, but 700. And 900 is not 900, but 900. So for example, this number, 784, would be 784. Or this number is 991 is 991.
So that's our really quick review that as an intermediate or advanced student, you should already be pretty good at. But before we go on to our bigger numbers and real world examples, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you still haven't. Now, for the thousands, we have mil. And then it's followed by the same structure that we've already learned previously. So for example, 1001 would be 1001. 1154 would be
1154.
1673 would be
1673.
So you see, it follows the exact same pattern as before. Now, counting in the thousands is actually pretty easy because we're just going to add the same numbers we already learned before mil as we count up. So for example, 1,000 is just mil, but 2,000, 2,000. 3,000, 3,000. 11,000, 11,000. Or 500,000, 500,000.
We'll get into more advanced numbers in a second.
But first, let's get into some real-world usage of numbers that we already know. In many Spanish-speaking countries, big numbers come up when you're dealing with prices or budgeting or dealing with foreign currencies. So, for example, the purse costs 2,500 pesos.
La bolsa cuesta 2,500 pesos.
We paid $75 per night for our luxury hotel.
Pagamos $75 por noche por nuestro hotel lujoso.
All right, let's do a harder one based on everything we've learned up till now. That house costs $897,040.30.
Esa casa cuesta $897,040 con 30 centavos.
Okay, now years can be tricky. Instead of saying years as two separate numbers like 1999 like we do in English, you're going to say the full number straight through. So I was born in 1999 would be
Nací en 1999.
the project started in 2023.
El proyecto comenzó en 2023.
So remember, in English where we can say 2023 or 2023, in Spanish you need to say the full number straight out. 2023.
Bonus tip. When saying or writing a date in Spanish, you always start with the day, then with the month, and then the year. So for example, today is May 22nd, 2025. Hoy es 22 de mayo de 2025.
Now, big numbers also come up when you're talking about phone numbers or passwords or addresses. Now, this took me some getting used to, but when giving out our phone number in English, we say each digit singularly, but in Spanish-speaking countries, they'll group the numbers in twos. So for example, my phone number is 602-518-9461.
Mi número de teléfono es 60 25 18 94 61.
Or, for example, my Wi-Fi password is 8888-4218, capital M, little n.
Mi contraseña de Wi-Fi es 88 88 42 18 M mayúscula N minúscula.
And sometimes the order can be very different. For example, when we talk about addresses. So for example, I would say my address is 607 Bugambilia Street, apartment 4, Campestre, Querétaro, Mexico, 03876.
Whereas in Spanish, it would be Calle Bugambilia 607, Interior or Departamento 4, Colonia Campestre, Código postal or zip code 03876, then the city, the state, and the country. So Querétaro would be the city and the state and Mexico.
Now, from here on out, you might see us read some of these numbers because they're getting bigger. So now, what if we ordered something, let's say from Amazon, and we needed to read out our tracking package number? So how would it be if we have the number 6701-3341-270098?
We'll again put the numbers in pairs. And by the way, a hyphen is called guión. So the number would be 6701 3341 270098. Before we get into our more advanced numbers, we want to say thanks to our supporters and members. Thank you so much for becoming part of our community. Your support is the reason we can make these Spanish lessons, so muchas gracias.
Also, we have another video lesson where we use these advanced numbers to talk about things like fractions or percentages and much more on our Patreon page. So head over to Patreon and sign up for the Jefe membership to receive exclusive benefits. You can also become a member right here on YouTube, as well as head over to Buy Me a Coffee to donate to the channel. We'll put all of those links in the description of this video. Thank you all so much for your support. Now, advanced learners need to know that beginner students always make the mistake of whether or not they should put un before mil. If we want to say 1,000 people, we don't say 1,000 personas. Or 1,000 euros wouldn't be 1,000 euros, just 1,000 personas or 1,000 euros. So for example, after the earthquake, there were more than 1,000 people in the street.
Después del terremoto, había más de 1,000 personas en la calle.
Or, I can't believe you got his autograph. That has to be worth $1,000.
No puedo creer que conseguiste su autógrafo. Eso debe valer $1,000.
Now, for millions, we have 1,000,000, 2,000,000, 3,000,000, etc. Now, you see, unlike mil, we do put un before millions. Now, there's nothing else really new that we need to learn here, After millions, we're going to use the same structure we used previously. So let's do a few examples. So, how would we say 1,592,413?
1,592,413. Once more. 1,592,413.
Okay, and how would we say 365,088,100?
365,088,100. Again. 365,088,100. Now, let's talk about billions and trillions.
Now, we're not going to go so into this because they're rarely used. Maybe we'll make another video about them in the future. But for now, what you need to know is that in English, we say billions, but billones in Spanish is actually for trillions. To say billions, we use mil millones. So for example, 1 billion would be
1,000 millones.
And 8 billion would be
8,000 millones.
So remember, we don't use billones for billions. This is the part that really trips students up.
Not only students.
Well, that, and when dealing with billions, if we have numbers in the millions place, we're actually going to break up the words mil and millones. That can sound a lot harder than it is, so let's see an example. How would it be if we wanted to say 3,400,253,492?
3,400 millones 253,492.
So notice how we broke up 3,000 and then 400 millones. So they're not together. Say it again.
3,400 millones 253,492.
Okay, let's do another one. What would it be if we had 98,017,049,001?
Okay. 98,017,049,001. Okay, once more. 98,017,049,001.
It definitely takes some practice, but you get used to it pretty quickly. Finally, in English, we use trillions for numbers that have 12 zeros. But in Spanish, we're going to use billones. So 1 trillion would be
Un billón.
And 6 trillion would be
6 billones.
Now, just for fun, let's see if you can all get these last two, okay? If we have the number 43,722,000,000,000, how would it be?
43 billones 722,000 millones. Una vez más. 43 billones 722,000 millones.
Okay, and if we have the number 115,820,400,000, how would it be?
It's hard, this one. 115 billones 820,400,000. Once more. Yeah. 115 billones 820,400,000. Yay!
And that's it. Learning numbers like this is extremely important to be able to talk about prices, dates, as well as giving out other important personal information.
Try to practice listening to numbers or record yourself saying these big numbers. And then check if you got them right to get faster and faster.
Again, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you still haven't.
Now watch this video to keep improving your Spanish. Until next time.